Okay, so let's talk about work culture today. You hear it everywhere, right? Online, in meetings.
Mm,
This idea that every single job should be about, well, balance, great perks, total flexibility, like minimal stress is the ultimate goal.
absolutely. It's this picture of a perfect workplace, maybe clocking out at 4 p.m. sharp, super relaxed.
Exactly, a kind of universal dream for every company. But you have to wonder, who is that actually for? And, I mean, why push this one-size-fits-all idea onto, well, everyone, workers, industries? They're all so different.
That's the real tension, isn't it? And it's precisely what we're diving into today. We're looking at a perspective from Sylvia, an organizational psychologist.
And her view is pretty counterintuitive, maybe even provocative.
Yeah, she basically argues that expecting the entire corporate world, like every single company, to reshape itself around one specific set of employee desires, low stress, high perks, it's not realistic. It kind of misreads why people work and what they choose.
So our mission today is really to get into those trade-offs, the choices people make about risk, about money, about the lifestyle they're willing to accept or sacrifice.
We're unpacking this idea that, not everybody wants the same thing from work, and ultimately finding the right fit. That responsibility lands squarely on the individual.
Okay, but before we really get into the different types of workplaces, I want to mention something. If this kind of, let's say, contrarian take on HR and the corporate world, making adult choices about your career,
With its drinks?
make a chew.
Ah,
Yeah, we definitely recommend subscribing to and following the Corporate Kindergarten. They offer exactly this type of necessary, maybe sometimes uncomfortable HR perspective we're digging into right now.
okay, so let's start with that irony Ola highlights.
Okay.
It's quite something.
What's the core contradiction?
Well, the sources point out that often the very groups pushing hardest for diversity and inclusion, they're simultaneously pushing for the single, uniform idea of what the ideal workplace culture should look like.
That is fascinating. It's like championing diversity and identity, but demanding conformity in working style.
Kind of, yeah. Ola's work really pinpoints the elements of this, mainstream narrative that's being challenged.
Right, the assumptions.
Yeah.
Like everyone wants maximum flexibility no matter what.
Is that, or everyone wants to leave early every single day.
And companies must just keep piling on wellness programs, mental health days, all that stuff. And definitely avoid anything that looks like, hustle culture.
And Ola's counter is just straightforward. That vision, it's just not true for everyone. The sources stress that the right fit is deeply personal. Trying to impose one definition of healthy work is, well, it's kind of impossible.
And the sources suggest this pressure comes from, what, social groups? Peer pressure?
Yeah, a sort of impulse to make everyone conform, which just ignores the reality that different people want different things. It's complex.
So it's not about judging one type of work as good or bad. It's about recognizing that work exists on a spectrum, right? Defined by intensity and reward.
Exactly. Which brings us to that core text we looked at. Not everyone wants the same kind of workplace. Simple as that.
Some people genuinely do want that laid-back vibe. Balance, comfort.
Mm.
Maybe they have a lot going on outside work, like the source says.
But then you have others who, and this is a direct quote, genuinely want to grind, put in crazy hours, and chase aggressive goals.
So for them, the intensity itself is the draw, because they link high risk with, like, massive growth or big financial wins.
Precisely. It's about motivation. It's not just about needing a job. It's about thriving on that pressure, that challenge. It aligns with a certain drive.
Okay, so this leads into Ola's breakdown of the different kinds of workplaces, and crucially, how money fits into that picture.
Yeah, the compensation piece is key. The sources lay out three main archetypes. Understanding these really helps clarify the choices people are making.
Let's walk through them. What's the first type?
Okay, first up, low stress, low gain. Think about well-established companies, maybe older legacy businesses, even some government roles. Very stable, predictable.
Low risk? Maybe a bit. Boring.
Yeah, could be seen that way. The sources definitely say they can be boring. People in these jobs often just want to do their work and go home. They might have busy lives elsewhere. But the key point, the sources hammer home. The salary always reflects that low stress.
So you get stability, but you're trading off that potential for, like, huge financial leaps.
Exactly, security over big gains.
Yeah.
Then you move up to the medium stress category.
Okay, what does that look like?
These are often companies maybe going through some changes, some growth, generally stable, but you might need to put in extra hours sometimes, a late night here or there, maybe check emails on a weekend occasionally.
So moderate risk, moderate reward. A middle ground.
Pretty much. Good for people who want to advance but aren't ready to, sell their soul to the job.
And then the big one,
Mm.
the high-stress, high-gain world. This is where all the burnout talk comes from, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. This is your top-tier finance, investment banking, high-stakes law firms. We're talking constant pressure, massive stakes, often insane hours. 80-plus hours a week isn't uncommon.
But the payoff.
Huge. The sources are really clear. The money is massive. Partners in these places earn loads of money.
And this is the absolute core of Ola's argument, right? That direct link.
Yeah.
The salary always matches the stress. It's a transaction.
Always. That huge paycheck at the investment bank. It's not a gift. It's the direct payment for the hours, the constant availability, the pressure you absorb. It's compensation for a massive personal sacrifice.
Which brings us to that slightly uncomfortable point about what people really want when they criticize the hustle.
Right. Ola kind of poses the question, if people are complaining about the stress of these high-gain jobs, what's the alternative they're imagining? The analysis in the sources suggests, well, that maybe some critics secretly want the rewards, the money, the status.
But without putting in the same level of work or dealing with the same stress.
That's the implication.
Mm.
You see it sometimes, the sources suggest, in reactions to figures like, say, Alex Hormozy. People who are very public about grinding hard for huge rewards.
He definitely embodies that work incredibly hard to get rich idea.
Yeah, and the criticism he gets often seems to boil down to, I want what he has, but I condemn the way he got it. It's like demanding high-gain results for a low-stress price. And organizational reality just doesn't work that way.
So if that transaction is so clear, why don't these demanding industries just change? There's so much pressure for better work-life balance.
The profit motive. The sources bring up this really telling conversation. It involved senior HR people and consultants from the big firms, the ones advising banks and finance giants.
And that was the bottom line.
Starkly simple. These companies aren't going to fundamentally change their model because, well, if they start seriously cutting hours, reducing workloads, easing the pressure, they won't make as much profit.
Well, okay. That's the blunt truth. An individual might say profit isn't everything, but for these specific high-stakes organizations.
For them, profit is the engine. It fuels everything, the huge salaries, the bonuses, the entire ecosystem. If you dial back the profit motive, you dial back the compensation. It's intertwined.
So expecting these companies to just embrace a lower stress, lower profit model, it's unrealistic.
Exactly, which is why the sources argue against this idea of needing to rescue companies with wellness narratives. They likely won't change their core financial structure. The focus has to shift back to the individual. Ola uses her own experience here from hospitality.
Right. She worked in that industry for a long time.
19 years. And she talks about how it meant being basically on call 24/7, constant calls, issues cropping up anytime. It just bled into personal life. That was the job.
But she didn't complain about it while she was in it.
No, that's her point. She said she never complained because she knew that intensity, that availability was part of the deal. It came with that specific role, that salary. She understood the industry's profit model depended on that constant service.
So she didn't expect the entire industry to change just for her personal preferences based on some external narrative.
Precisely. When it no longer suited her, she made the choice to leave that high-demand environment. She didn't stay and try to force the system to become something it wasn't.
And that is the core message we're exploring, isn't it? The adult response is recognizing the reality, understanding the trade-offs, and choosing the environment that actually fits your current goals and boundaries. Adapting to the market, not demanding the market adapt to you.
Yes, you have to find what's suitable.
So how should listeners, think about applying this? It connects to where you are in life, right?
Absolutely. Ola talks about suitability based on life stage. Maybe when you're younger, fewer ties, more energy, that might be the time you decide to go for it.
Put in the crazy hours.
Yeah.
Chase the big money. Build that foundation.
Yeah, except high stress for high gain, because you can right then and you want to make money and start building life the foundation. But later on, maybe family comes along, other priorities shift.
Then you might consciously choose to move down a spectrum. Opt for less stress, even if it means lower financial reward.
Exactly. It's about intentional choices. The main takeaway from the source is really about empowerment through seeing clearly. Recognize the variety that's already out there from the stable, maybe slower legacy companies to the high-octane finance world.
And then make a conscious decision about where you fit best right now. Instead of getting caught up in the pressure to conform to one single right way to work, like the source text warned against.
And that means tuning out some of the noise, too.
What kind of noise?
Well, the sources advise strongly against just blindly buying into social narratives. Maybe your peer group is all saying, don't work too hard or never give more than you have to.
Okay.
The lesson is, listen, sure, consider the options. Understand the trade-offs, both the obvious and the hidden ones. But then you have to go back to yourself. What are you actually willing to sacrifice? What rewards, financial, personal, intellectual, are you seeking?
It demands real critical thinking, doesn't it? Not just going with the flow or the popular opinion, like the example used in the source material about standing up for the teacher.
Yeah, that was powerful. Standing alone against the whole class, against the immediate social pressure, because your own judgment told you something different. It wasn't about the teacher, ultimately. It was about having your own mind.
Independent judgment, even when it's uncomfortable or unpopular.
Vital. You have to find the environment that aligns with your actual boundaries, your willingness to push, your desired outcomes. And Ola even challenges the whole idea that stress is always bad. She mentions that for her, stress can actually be positive. She likes the focus it brings, the challenge of tackling hard problems. It can be a motivator, not just a negative.
Rejecting that blanket, stress is toxic label, which leads to that very strong closing statement in the source analysis.
Ah, yes. The idea that sometimes the people constantly pushing the mental health and well-being narrative, they can end up, quote, ruining my mental health.
It sounds harsh out of context, but within this framework.
It makes a certain kind of sense, right? If you've consciously chosen a high-intensity environment that rewards you in ways you value, money, growth, challenge, and you're constantly being told by others that your choice is fundamentally unhealthy or wrong. That external judgment, that fight against a prevailing narrative, that can be incredibly draining, maybe more draining than the job itself.
So, wrapping this deep dive up, the core message seems to be understand the work transaction.
Yeah.
Adults recognize the market is varied. They don't fall for the one-size-fits-all story.
Yeah, they figure out their own equation, what they'll give, what they want back, and place themselves accordingly.
It really puts the power and the responsibility back on the individual. It's about choosing your reality.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe a provocative question for you, the listener. This deep dive suggests that freedom to choose your intensity is crucial. If the highest pressure often brings the highest rewards, potentially setting you up for future freedom, what specific personal cost are you willing to pay right now? In terms of hours, stress, maybe lifestyle sacrifices, what price are you willing to pay today for the future you want tomorrow? That's the real adult choice.